Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Marilyn Bradford, and this is the Irreverent Therapists, and I'm joined by my wonderful friend and colleague, Pam Houghteling.
Hello.
Hello. And today's episode is called When Things Don't Go As Planned. I think we've all experienced that.
Oh, I've never experienced that. No.
You're sure your picnic for 100 will be just perfect, and then it rains. You're excited that your adult daughter will be living close to you, and then she moves to another state to take her dream job. You're looking forward to a fabulous vacation, and you break your leg 2 days before you're supposed to leave. Whether your expectations are for large or smaller events, if things don't go as planned, you can be devastated and just confused and upset and annoyed and angry and all kinds of things. Are there other ways of dealing with disruption and disappointment? Absolutely. That's what this call is going to be about.
Well, it's so funny. What this makes me think of is my sister's wedding, which was, many, many years ago.
Yes.
But my sister is someone who is incredibly well organized. Mm-hmm. If you think I'm an organized person, she's even more so. And like 4 different things went wrong with her wedding, starting the night before. And it was everything from, which was, not funny, but somebody died who was a major part of the wedding.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. The bridesmaids arrived with their dresses hemmed to different lengths, and my mom stayed up all night hemming dresses. My little, shoes as the maid of honor that get dyed to match your dress. We were standing in dewy grass for photos, and my teal shoes bled all over the bottom of her white dress. It's like the organist for the service didn't show up, and a special family ring she was wearing, one of the stones fell out. Like so many things that there's no way you can plan, for or take care of or undo or anything. And so that to me is like the real life story that I've heard that is the most things don't go according to plan.
What did you all do? How did people react?
Well, it's interesting. Everything went forward. Like I said, my mom hemmed dresses late into the evening. She was able to blot the wedding dress in a way that it wasn't so visible, all the stains on it. A friend of my dad's there's something called trumpet voluntary, which is supposed to have like piano, organ, and the trumpet. So he had to play the whole thing himself, and he almost passed out. They had a singer there who had a little keyboard, so she'd hit a note and everybody would sing. So, it all went forward.
Yeah.
But, at that time for her, it was very hard to have things not go as planned.
Yes.
And, and I think that's really what we're here to talk about, is because I'm sure everybody has great stories about things kind of not going as you planned, but it's what you're bringing up is how do you handle it?
Yeah.
What do you do in the face of that? Yeah. And is it something that sinks you, or is it something that you are able to be resilient with?
Yes. And my sense is the first thing you do is ask questions. I had a trip to give a right recovery class in Ireland, in Cork, Ireland. It was quite a while ago, 6 or 7 years ago, and people were signing up and this and that. We got there was only one person who came, and I was like, okay. And so I said, okay, question. Do I stay for this? Do I go back to the US? There were 2 hosts who wanted to do it, but one paying person. What's going to create the greatest good here? Mm-hmm. And that's a little bit different than your instance, because in your instance, people really had to okay, what can I contribute here? How can I make this happen? And that, if it's an event like that, like the picnic raining or this or that, you have to go to, okay, now what? What's gonna create this? I've had some things planned on rainy days, and I'm like, okay, where can we go? Started calling around, and we found this odd venue that we were able to go to. But you have to do something immediately. One thing you don't want to do is freeze, and just throw up your hands. On this particular Ireland trip,
the vapors.
yes, exactly. If something like this, where you're kind of disappointed and you're going to lose money on something, or people don't show up for the wedding, or people don't show up for any kind of event you have, what do? You just ask questions. Okay, so if I have the event, if I stay in Ireland, which I chose to do, what does that create? Actually, it created massively for the 3 people who did this class. And then I got a little extra tour of Ireland. I didn't kiss the Blarney Stone, but I got near it.
Well, and the thing I think of too is where we make things very significant. So for example, a wedding, people make not everybody, but it's often something that people hook a lot of meaning onto and want it to be just right.
Yes.
And so then when things don't go as planned, you're more likely to go into reaction.
Yes.
Your example of the class, if you're making it very significant of, oh, well, I spent all this money, I flew all the way here, I can't believe, there's only one person.
Right.
Anything you make significant, it's hard to go into question, right?
Yes.
You tend to more go into reaction.
Yes.
So to me, part of it too is to take a few moments, and anywhere you're going into the significance of this thing that you put so much time and effort into, and you wanted it to turn out a certain way, there's so many tools you can use to help you get out of that significance. And, one of them is interesting point of view. I have this point of view that I want my wedding to be perfect.
Yes.
Interesting point of view. I have this point of view of, I flew all this way and nobody showed up, like whatever it is. I'm not, that wasn't what was coming up for you, but whatever it is, you can use a tool like that, or the access consciousness clearing statement, to kind of disperse the charge on it.
Great. Disperse the charge. That's a great statement.
And because then from there, you can ask those questions and actually perceive, oh, how can we handle this? We can get somebody to get a keyboard to do the music, or, you were able to ask the questions to see, actually, it is going to create greater to do this class, even though I'm doing this whole class for one paying person. But what does that ripple out into in the world?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think another great question is, if I weren't in judgments or reacting to this, what would I be aware of?
Yeah.
That's a question I ask all the time, because that kind of goes like that. And you can take it from there. One of the other things, there's a little twist on it, but I'm very aware that there are times when I have a plan for me for the day. I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do that. And I'm not motivated to do any. I don't do any of it. I sit and watch Netflix or something and make a point of trying not to judge myself. But one thing that brings up for me is that old song, there is a season for everything. There's a time for everything. And when I just plan mentally, and I don't ask the question, where can I put my energy today that's going to create greater? Or is now the time to do this? Or is now the time to start on it, but let myself have some slack and maybe cogitate a little bit? I'm working on some information for a legal document, and I got quite a bit done today. And then I went, and I'm like, oh, it's now the time. It's like, no, I really need to let some ideas kind of rattle around for a day or two, and then I'll finish it. Yeah. But when we make mental plans without asking questions, you can really get yourself and a twist.
Well, and those mental plans that we make, we're not being present with the
Yes.
energy of things in the moment with
Yes.
what we're aware of. It's like, oh, this would be a good day to do blah, blah, blah. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Is very different than actually being present in the moment and going, is this really going to work out today? Maybe today's not the day for this. Something else I'm aware of is actually more pressing.
Yes.
And
And
all
that
of
means
this.
taking a nap.
Yep. Taking care of yourself and your body.
Yeah.
I've started doing, I went from having an injured foot for many months to being able to walk. And now taking a walk is one of my top priorities of the day. It's like, and I'll find myself like, I've been sitting at my computer. I took a walk right before we did this show. Whereas a lot of times I would have, gone, oh, but I have this, and this to do. I can get this done before the show. Now I'm actually being present with my body and saying, no, my body wants to move. And the energy that creates for me is contributes in a different way than checking things off my list.
Well, and I'm not saying don't have plans. However, there's a big difference between mental plans and energetic plans, like Pam was talking about. For instance, I was sitting in a restaurant. Oh, there goes my kitty behind me. Hi, HRH. HRH stands for His Royal Highness. And believe me, that's who he thinks he is. And not all of his plans go the way he would like. He's been hanging out at his food bowl since he ate his breakfast. And he's not really hungry, but he wants to make sure there's something in there, There he goes downstairs to check again.
Check it out. Let me check
it out. Come on, Mom. But the other day I was sitting in a restaurant and I've been traveling a bit. I had plans. I'm not going to travel for a while. I should just stay home. I've got some legal things and paperwork to take care of. Plus I need to clean out closets and do this and that and plan to do it right. So anyway, I was sitting in this restaurant and I want to go to London. And I'm like, seriously, Marilyn? You want to go to London? And I got on the phone in the restaurant and booked my ticket. I had 24 hours to cancel. And then I got another idea about a place to stay, which is not a place I would have thought I wanted to stay, but it's so light. So currently, now I do backup plans. I do put things, I make sure they're refundable. Now the airline ticket it isn't, but the credit would go to something else, but the hotel is refundable up. But anyway, I'm like, I'm going to London and I keep checking in. It's like, oh yeah. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I thought I only was going to be there 6 days. And I thought, well, that's stupid. I should make my ticket. And every time I tried to make it for more, the energy was not there. So apparently, as of this 10 seconds, I'm going to London for 6 nights or 7 nights.
Well, and that makes me think of a tool that Marilyn and it's an access consciousness tool that we both use every day. And it's called living in 10-second increments.
Yes.
And the idea is, okay, if I have 10 seconds to live the rest of my life, what do I choose? If I have 10 seconds, what do I choose? And, you might be like, how do you get anything done if you're living in 10-second increments? But to me, the way it plays out in my life is it's a willingness to pivot to, and to be like, okay, this is where I'm right now. I'm heading towards going to London for 6 days. I've got things in place. It's also changeable.
Yeah.
But if something else came up that really changed that, you would change it.
I would change it. Absolutely.
It's about not being locked into, well, this is what I planned, so this is what it has to be, and I have no choice anymore. You always have choice, and your choices are creating kind of the next possibilities and the next choices available to you.
Yeah.
So so you can, like, I am a master organizer. Anyone who knows me, I'm always organized. I have a plan. Like it's how I function, but I'm also willing to change on a dime. and toss it all up in the air and create something new and different based on now what's available. And so that with that flexibility of 10-second increments, you can, play on all kinds, you can have things moving towards your target in all kinds of ways, but you're willing to change that target. You're willing to completely change how you're functioning, how you run your business, all kinds of things.
Well, and that brings up something. A couple of weeks ago, I was working with a client who was in a coaching program, kind of a very much this reality-based program. And she was like, Marilyn, I don't really want to stay in here. I'm not getting anything, but I feel guilty for leaving. And what we discovered is, and this is so true of so many people, we are not operating by what we know to be true for us. We're operating on these things. Once you start something, you shouldn't leave it. I mean, how many, and finally she's like, oh, no problem, I'm leaving. But how many of you know people who knew ahead of time that their marriage wasn't going to work out and go and, went through with it anyway because they'd sent the invitations out or they'd gotten their whatever.
Or stayed in a job that's like killing their spirit because, well, you don't change jobs. You need to be in something and stay in it.
Stable. Yes, exactly.
Stable. Yeah.
I once knew a therapist who judged people's kind of sense of self and stability by whether or not they had long-term friends of 20 and 30 years. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. We went to high school together, whatever. But that also assumes that people don't change.
Yeah.
And that's something you should do even when your friend becomes kind of toxic.
Yeah. Well, and all of this makes me think of, because we're talking about when things don't go as planned. Yes. And that, you're going along, you're making your plans, and then something happens and it doesn't go as planned, and you're at the mercy of that.
Yes.
So
it's outside of you.
And now your day's ruined, your wedding's ruined, your whatever. So all these things that Marilyn and I are talking about of being in question, living in 10-second increments. If I weren't going into reaction, what would I be aware of? Like every tool that we've been talking about takes you out of being the effect of whatever's going on. And you always have choice. Yes. And whatever, even if the hurricane drops a tree on your house, that you don't, while it's there to be handled and you got to, take some actions to repair your house and get the tree moved and stuff. It doesn't have to be something that's ruining everything for you, that you can actually be someone who's, happy and handling things and choosing what works for you and moving forward, no matter what is going on around.
Yes. Not making yourself the effect of everything.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, when I had to put my sweet kitty down at 4.5 months for a weird kind of cancer, it doesn't mean I didn't allow myself to grieve, and maybe hibernate a little bit, cocoon a little bit, and still be aware of what's going on and what I can add to my life and what else is possible here. Yeah. Okay. Got a lot done this morning. I'm going to spend the afternoon just watching Netflix and maybe crying a little bit. And that's okay too. And that's the other thing, is to be in allowance of yourself, not to judge yourself for what you choose when that's what is required for you to choose at the moment. That's going to create greater.
And even if what you're judging yourself for is going into reaction because things didn't go as planned, once you notice it, cool, I'm in reaction. I think I'd be happier choosing something different here. And 10 seconds, you choose again.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So shall I cue the music?
Cue the music then. Thank you all for joining us. Check out the 10-second increments.